What is it? Where are we standing now? Show me where's the military base?
We're standing at Mount Adir. It's the western part of the Lebanese border, the sea. On the west, you can actually see the sea.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Rosh Hanikra. That is the Lebanon border. You can see it with the color and the nature. And bases, almost every antenna that you see is a base, actually.
So we've just spoke with members of the Israeli military to talk to us about the problems they face on this border and what they found when they went into these towns with the recent, they call it a manoeuvre, where they've gone into Lebanon to fight and battle Hezbollah. They said each town, basically, it's not about the army coming in or Hezbollah coming in. They're all based and live in the villages. And then each house has its own role. Certain houses' job is to store rockets, someone will be a lookout, and that community can be switched on like that. So they're all living amongst it. It's their community, rather than people having to come in and not know the town or cities or outside armies. It's their homes, yeah? They switch them on like that. And then for us, the difficult conversation, yeah? I'm against foreign aid. We all are fed up of our British taxpayers' money going to countries like that. Islamic Sharia-driven hellholes where minorities, Christian minorities, are targeted and persecuted. We're fed up of it. But the way they say it, an Israeli, say someone now, the Lebanese government, they've started trying to go with the support of the Western nations, trying to take the power away from Hezbollah. Because the money in that country comes from Iran. And whilst the money floods in from Iran, that means Hezbollah have the influence over the shops, over the food, over the education. They're the ones controlling the community. If you want to take away the jihadist army, Hezbollah has an army of 100,000. You want to take away the jihadist army, you have to take away the influence of Iran. How do you do that other than propping the state up with money and giving then the country and the people a different influence? That's where our foreign aid, and that you can understand why Israel is involved in many conflicts in many of the surrounding nations, which they get a lot of criticism for, but they have to try to control whose influence is in that country. So the West are probably trying to fund in that country. But here's the problem. A terrorist for Hezbollah will receive, say, the equivalent of £1,000. The new Lebanese army, military, whatever you want to call it, that are trying to counter them, on their finances will receive quarter. So still, the financial influence that's coming in there is coming in there from Iran. And Israel sits here, and every border of its nation, this influence coming from Iran, which is why, do you know, most recently when it looked like Iran was about to fall, the Ayatollah was about to fall, you had many of the right in America saying, stay out of that war. British were saying, stay out of the war. Me personally, I wanted to see him massacred. I wanted to see that Iranian regime fall. Yeah, because that Iranian regime is behind most of the terrorist regimes in the world, which there's continued war, rape, murder and pillaging from.
So Live Note is an organization that tries to give back to the land of Israel, tries to rebuild parts of Israel that were affected by the war, affected by terror attacks, and also discovering new parts of Israel that were literally buried for a long time, like in Sfat.
We are literally on the border. As you can see, there's a border fence stroke wall that goes along the perimeter. So literally there, just there, is Lebanon. And if you look over there, look how close it is to Israel. Bear in mind, there's living facilities all here for the Israelis. You can see how close the properties are. Many of these properties are falling down, destroyed from the recent war. And these would be where Hezbollah fighters, the jihadist army of Iran, really, would have been stationed and based, firing rockets into the state of Israel, attempting to, if they could, with the ambition for a ground invasion. We looked at a video earlier, we were shown a video that was from 10 years ago of them talking about their plan to invade the state of Israel from this border. And then they spent a decade building up their weapons, building up their bases within the border towns and villages.
Few words. So first, behind us is the village of Shtula. This village was evacuated during the war, and it was heavily threatened by Hezbollah. Previous to the war, you could see actually Hezbollah activists walking right on the fence. And during the war, what happened here, first, you can see that the terrain was exposed. There was plenty of bushes all across, and in those bushes you had endless posts of Hezbollah with machine guns, RPGs, explosives, everything was ready and set for the Radwan forces to cross the fence, raid Shtula, and move forward south to Shlomi and other villages all around the area. So this is you need to understand. The operations of the IDF during the war was to destroy Radwan's capabilities to launch their plan, their major plan, to raid the Galil and conquer the Galil. You can see it's quite amazing to see the huge difference between Christian villages that remain untouched, as we see previously, to what happened here in Ait Ashab. Ait Ashab was a village that first historically, the Second Lebanon War started from Ait Ashab. We had the raid on a patrol of IDF reservists on the summer of 2006. You can see that there's a mountain. You can see the smoke, like the fog of the truck. And you can see that there's a slippery downhole over there, and you don't see what's it because it's the stream, it's a valley, okay? And right in this valley, you had about 40 Hezbollah terrorists crossing the fence, storming the platoon that was in an ordinary patrol on their last day of the mission, when they are, thinking about, yalla, let's get home. They were heavily attacked. We've lost a few soldiers, and 2 soldiers were kidnapped into, the bodies of the soldiers were kidnapped into Lebanon, Goldwasser and Regev, and that's how the Second Lebanon War started, from Ait Ashab. And איך היה המפקד של הכוח? נו? הסלבריטי הזה, שפיקד על המבצע הזה כאן, חוסל אחר כך. I need to... מי? Imad, yeah. One of the senior commanders of Hezbollah, Imad Murnia, was later on assassinated in Damascus. He was commanding the entire operation from a villa at the end of the village of Ait Ashab. This is 2006. Now, in this war, beside all what we've talked about that was happening here in the bushes, all these posts of Hezbollah, explosives, RPGs, heavy weapons, you had intense fighting within the village itself. You had here mainly Golani Brigade fighting within the village. In some of the cases, forces were going into houses. It looked as if the house was empty, but they had terrorists hiding in between the walls, surprising the force, causing sometimes heavy casualties. For our soldiers here in Ait Ashab, we've lost many soldiers in Ait Ashab, but eventually the village was clear from Hezbollah and was destroyed. You see now that the village is empty, and it was a very successful and a very important operation. And what has happened here in Ait Ashab also happened in other Shiite villages like Kile and other, or Marun Aras, up there, to make sure that there is no option for Radwan forces and Hezbollah forces to return and attack us.
What they found under this Shiite Islamic Arab village that was housing Hezbollah was that there was mass tunnels under the whole community as well. Mass tunnels. Last time I visited Israel as a tourist in 2016, there's a very famous photo that ended up across British media where I saw a tank, I saw the military, I pulled over and I said, can I just quickly take a picture? I was wearing shorts, swim shorts and flip-flops standing on a tank. The difference this time is I am a guest of the State of Israel and I am currently standing in a military base as I come to the border with Lebanon to understand the complexity of the battle that Israel faces to defend its nation and defend its people, and to understand just how close the forces of Hezbollah, Iran's proxy armies are, and the jihadists are that surround, literally, the other side of this wall there's a Jewish village, and you can throw a stone and hit the Arab village in Lebanon. It's been a very difficult war, and I think that Israel and the State of Israel has learned a lot from October 7th, because this site was probably more vulnerable to attack with a better fighting force and a better funded army from Iran than what the Hamas managed on the Gaza border. So, but I've had an amazing stay, I've had an amazing time in Israel. Fascinating trip.